it's time for another edition of Unlocked with Fox's Brock Huard. I'm Lance Taylor from the next round. It is on Disrupt the Media. Like, subscribe, as always, brought to you by our friends at Manscaped, where I'm holding the handyman right here to go to manscaped.com, put in that promo code Unlocked, and they're going to hook you up at checkout. I know you're waiting on your Manscaped. You're all over the place, though. So where are you, in Montana right now?
Let's see. Where was I? I was in Montana for about 20 hours. Got to watch my girls ball out in their first little public scrimmage, which, Lance, is still surreal to me. It's fun to sit in the stands. Totally different as a high school parent than a college parent. You know, once
Why
it
is
gets to
that?
college, well, like high school, you know everybody. You've kind of grown up
Yeah.
together. You do a lot of things together. And then you get to college and they're the asset of the university, right? And that coach, and you sit in the stands and you start listening to people. And I try to be pretty low profile, and it's like, oh yeah, there's that Huard girl out of Colorado. You know, her sister, older sister, and I think her dad. You know, and I'm just like, oh, this is pretty funny, man. So yeah, it just they're out there performing and entertaining, and then hopefully in this year their team should be pretty good. I think they got a chance to win the Big Sky and get to the tournament, which would be really, really fun.
Well, I respect the fact that you're still so involved with everything that you do this time of year, being able to go see them. And I know you love the state of Washington, but you got out of Seattle. You're in Denver now. Is there a chance one day you would relocate to a place like Montana? Because I've only been there one time. I took my daughter there for her 17th birthday, and I'm in love with it, and I've got to go back.
I think so. You know, I think we're at this stage of life now with our girls in school, and my wife and I got married right after college. I think my oldest has dreams of doing that. So kind of, you know, where they end up will probably play a bit of a role where we will end up, or at least in somewhat close proximity. So we'll see. We're actually looking at a condo up there, you know, to just disclose all my fun personal family business. That's the only thing I know how to do. So hopefully that works out. So, you know, when Lance and your daughter want to go out and watch the Grizz play basketball, we'll have a room for you to stay and hang out and all that good stuff.
I'm all about it. Okay, so we're going to start backwards because we typically talk NFL on the back end. We talk college on the front end. Let's start with this. And it goes back to your Seahawks this past weekend. And I made the mistake of putting this massive play, my NFL game of the year, on this. I felt so good about Seattle. They do such a good job of going from the Pacific time zone to the Eastern time zone and playing really good football. And I just felt coming off this bye, they were going to be fantastic. And they come out, first drive is incredible. They go up 7-0. Then Cincinnati goes down, and not that big of a deal. But in the second half, they get 4 first and goals, and they translate that into 3 points. And I just couldn't be more frustrated because that Seattle team is so good. And I said this on the air on Monday. I told my my co-host, I was like, they're better than Seattle. And they're like, oh, they're better than Cincinnati. And they're like, you think Seattle's better than Cincinnati? I'm like, Seattle's a damn good team. I mean, really, really good. And it was just like everything broke the wrong way. I will tell you, the offensive line with Crossback I thought was going to be better. But the interior, he was getting pressured nonstop.
He was 47% of his snaps. He got pressured, and that's just not a winning formula. The right tackle has been banged up, and he got hurt in the game and tried to just gut through it because it didn't really have anybody else at that time. You remember Jason Peters, future Hall of Famer? I think you're going to start to see him start to get in some of that mix, either one of the guard spots, tackle spot. Abe Lucas, their stud rookie last year, still got an ailing knee. I think they're going to try to give him a few more weeks. So that was a bummer because their defense, Lance, their defense is coming. I know that's a thing that Deion Sanders has trademarked in Boulder, so maybe I'll get dinged for saying that. But
little buff action.
There you go. Yep. But
got the shirt before Prime, by the way, just for the record.
Very good. But they're rolling, man. Devin Witherspoon's real. Jamal Adams back, loves to play. It's for the first time for those of us that have watched every game and watched it closely. And we're the flagship station of them in town. And it's been a good 6-7 years since you've seen this defense. This kind of like, we can impose our will. We'll hit you. We're unapologetic about it and got just a swag to it that's real. And they're coming defensively.
You know, that's kind of my barometer for the Rams being able to dominate in the second half up in Seattle week 1. And so I kind of hang my hat on that. The Rams sitting at 3-3, that they're a really good team still, although the record doesn't indicate. But the reason I bring this up, not to re-suffer from Sunday and losing that really tight game by a half a point. By the way, Pete Carroll kicks the field goal, which I think on the third, I'm going to bring this one more point up, and then I'm going to get to my real point on the quarterback situation. But it's 3rd and goal from the 19, and they pick up, I think, 13 or 14 and get it down to the 6 or 7. I think if they don't pick anything up with 2 and change and 2 timeouts, I think they probably kick the 3.
They do. Yeah, they do.
So that killed me.
They do. Yeah, such a bummer. Did you throw your controller like you did with Damon's
I did
interception?
not. I have learned to. I will say this. I hate watching games in public. I'm just that guy. I like doing it in my house. But my girlfriend had a social situation. We had to go to this local brewery. So I was watching on Sunday Ticket on the phone. And so she's talking to a bunch of people, and I've got the phone because the place we were at didn't have Sunday Ticket, and they couldn't mirror my screen to one of their screens. So I'm sitting, I've got it posted up on this side, and I contained the entire game until that final play, and I lost my shit. I did. I couldn't help it.
Yeah, that's your competitor,
happens.
Lance. What do we say? Your competitor.
That's what you love to hear, right?
Yes.
I'm a competitor. I'm a competitor. Hey, so Joe Burrow, though, in between was just lights out against that really good Seattle defense. And we've seen Joe Burrow. I mean, to me, I said last year, I thought he was the best quarterback in the NFL. And then I had to pull back a little bit because Mahomes won another championship. But if I could give you any quarterback in the world that you've got to have for the next 10 years with the franchise, who would that guy be? In college now or in the NFL? And I assume you probably go NFL, more proven commodity.
Yeah, I think I probably do take Burrow. And I think some of that is what we've seen with Russell and just the legs slowing down. And once Patrick's legs do slow down, and they're going to slow down, as many games as he's played, and they're just making Super Bowl run after Super Bowl run after Super Bowl run, and his ankle and his knee, and just stuff that's going to eventually Father Time just wins. And Russell is a maniac when it comes to taking care of himself, and he's doing everything imaginable. But at 34, you start to the wear and tear is real. And I think Burrow's game is such. Now he's taken a beating in his line the last few years. There's been 50 sacks. I mean, he takes shots, he takes hits. So while he may not be the total scrambler in creator and innovator that Mahomes is, he's still, his body is going to take a beating. And this thought that, these QBs can play till they're 40 because Tom did it and Drew did it. I don't know about that. And I think we're going to look back and go, those guys are pretty rare to get to that stage and get to that age and still perform. But to answer your question, I probably do go Burrow. To do what he's done at Cincinnati, to elevate them to where they've been. Kansas City had been a good program. Alex Smith had taken them to pretty good heights, divisional rounds. Trent Green took them to divisional rounds. Cincinnati was awful this century until Joe Burrow arrived, and he's a damn good player.
So we had two undefeateds going into Sunday with San Francisco, and they head into Cleveland to take on a backup quarterback. And look, I know there was key injury to Debo on that first drive, and Christian McCaffrey got nicked up and came out of that game. But Jake Moody misses a 41-yard field goal. If he was still at Michigan, I can understand it because that's a college kicker. We had the Jets beat the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Jets are better than advertised. With that said, though, you played in this league for a long time. It really is true. On any given Sunday, anybody can get beat. And that's what's difficult at lanceslock.com is I've got to be able to have this consistency. And we've had that for years, but people don't understand how trying it is and how unpredictable the NFL is. It's amazing.
Well, and I think especially, Lance, in those matchups when you've got elite defensive fronts. And Cleveland's an elite top 10, top 5 defensive front. The Jets are top 5, top 3 defensive front. So when they've got their horses in the stable and it's still first half of the season and everything is still in front of them and there's opportunity and they're wired to play and they're going to give their very best shot against the best team in the league and the undefeated team, you better watch out because the simplest math equation there has stood the test of time in football. When 4 beat 5, and beat them consistently, you have a chance to win no matter what else goes on. The game that I had up there at Iowa, Wisconsin, their front 4 with Iowa is real. That front 7 is real. They couldn't throw the ball a lick. They threw for 30-something yards. Their offense is horrific. They ran it a little bit, but you play defense and elite defense, great special teams, you have a chance to win. And Cleveland and the Jets certainly expressed that basic math formula when it comes to football and found a way to knock off the undefeated teams.
Well, let's transition there with Iowa. I think it's a good spot because when you look at the big matchup this weekend, we've got Ohio State hosting Penn State, and you start to look at James Franklin and how bad he's been against top 10 teams. He's 3-15 in his career at Penn State against top 10 teams. One of the wins was in Columbus back in 2016. This game, though, when you look at everybody's like Ohio State hadn't played anybody. They did go to Notre Dame and beat Notre Dame. So to me, that's an impressive win. They dominated Maryland in the second half. I think they're playing their best football, but the best win of the two to me, as bad as Iowa's offense is, for Penn State to be able to beat them 31-0 and go for 400 total yards. You've
Yep.
seen that defense. That defense is real deal.
Very real. And to do it with 95 plays, if you're going to do it against Iowa's defense, you're going to have to put together, which they did in that game, a 17-play drive, a 15-play drive, a 14-play drive, a 12-play. They did all of that. They scored all those points and had all those possessions, and they didn't have one 20-plus yard play. Iowa's defense, number one in the country, limiting 20-yard explosive plays, still number one in the country. I think we'll end the season based on their second half of their schedule, number one in the country. Penn State didn't have to rely on that. It wasn't anything fluky. It was, all right, we got to take 4, we got to take 3, we got to take 5, got to take 5, got to take 4, got to take 5, and just went methodically down the field. And I would say this about James is a little bit like Jim Harbaugh's record used to be, right? We always look at Harbaugh's record. He beat the teams he's supposed to beat, but then against good teams, can't ever beat them. And what was always the bottom line? Well, doesn't have an elite quarterback. I mean, you get to those matchups, you need an elite difference-making quarterback. Is the Penn State young man there? I don't know. I've watched him 2 or 3 times from afar, and there's things to like. He's big. He's strong. I think he's pretty tough, but he's going to be thrown in it. Like, this is going to be a great test for him to see if he can take that step, because if he does, man, their front, their line, their athleticism, it is toe for toe with Ohio State, if not maybe even a little bit more.
Yeah, and I know your network's going to jinx him on Saturday morning. I like Ohio State personally, but I know it's going to roll out there, and I think he's got, like, I'm doing this off the cuff, 241 career passes. He's never thrown a pick. They'll roll that out, and you know what's coming.
Yep, tip. JT is going to tip one to himself and take it to the house. Ohio State, just talking to people over the course of the season, and I think there is a belief and a feeling that Ohio State just doesn't have the depth they've had in the past. And keep an eye on that, especially in their front seven.
Well, the depth, but, everybody's dogging out Kyle McCord. And I brought up this today. I said, it's kind of like the Alabama quarterback situation. When you go from all of these elite quarterbacks, Kyle McCord's good.
Yeah.
He's just not maybe elite. He's got great receivers.
Yep.
But when you have the CJ Strouds and the Justin Fields, and then you drop to a Kyle McCord, much like, Tua and Jalen and Mac Jones, and then you drop to a guy like Jalen Milroe, doesn't mean they're bad quarterbacks. They could be a good B+.
That's right. That's right. And, they're going to need the rest of the guys to pick them up. And sometimes that does happen, especially if the dudes really love to play with them. Like, this guy's just a great guy. There's Peyton Manning. He didn't win a national title at Tennessee. Who won it? T. Martin wasn't anywhere near the quarterback Peyton was. But, those guys just kind of had to elevate their games around him. And I think to a degree, those receivers and some of the skill people know, like, Kyle's not going to make every throw that CJ did. Certainly in year one here with some of his inexperience, doesn't have terrific athleticism. He doesn't extend plays. He's not a creator like some of the others have been at Ohio State. So a little more limited. Milroe's interesting though, because he's the other side of that. Like, he's a great runner and just throws a deep ball. And how long can they live with that? Like, not a lot of intermediate, not a bunch of reading, but you know what? Run it or chuck it. And it's going to be kind of fun to see that play out here in the second half too. Yeah,
look, and I want to ask you about Bama in 1 second, because I think thinking about going to my first game in Tuscaloosa, at least this season. Well, no, I mean, I grew up watching Alabama football and went to school there and all that kind of stuff. I just hadn't been. I'll tell you, the last game I went to on campus, I think was 2019 Burrow Tua. And I just don't go to a lot of games, man. I like sitting in my cave and I just put my 6 TV in. And so now with the 4 blocks on YouTube, I can actually watch at one time 12 games.
Wow.
Which it's just all over the place, but it's more I'm paying attention to one game and sampling everything else. And I like that sports bar feel, and I like drinking my own bourbon, my own beer, and having my bathroom right there.
Yeah, so and pretty soon your own passing time. It's coming. Yeah. It's in delivery. I do know that. So are you going to be watching SC in Utah? Where is that going to be where's that going to be on the 12 box?
Oh, Fight On It will be sound the entire time. I'll have to really pay attention. So I've got, this isn't a humble brag because you can buy a TV for $300 now, but I've got a 65 and I've got a 75. So probably the 75 will be you and USC, which I'll get to that game in a second. And the 65 will be Ole Miss and Auburn, because a lot of people that listen and watch want to know about Ole Miss and Auburn. So that's going to be an important game. So I'm thinking about going to Tuscaloosa, and I do want to circle back on that. But before, who is this game more important to in Columbus? Because Ryan Day is taking a hell of a lot of heat, and this guy's record is amazing. He just has yet to win a national championship, and if he wouldn't have got so conservative against Georgia, pick up about 10 more yards, I think they win that game last year and they destroy TCU. So he still has the monkey on the back, But at the same time, I bring this up about James Franklin, and there are a lot of people in the media that believe Penn State is the better team this year. So who has more pressure in this game? Is it Day or is it Franklin?
Yeah, I think it is still Ryan Day when you're just that coach with the expectation. And as you said, they're like willing to get rid of you because you lost to Michigan the last 2 years. I mean, that's just the world you live in. You can't really leave your house. Yeah. So and James Franklin's record against those opponents has been what it is. And I think there's still been some patience to keep building, and to keep growing so yeah, I think there's just an unbelievable expectation and burden that when you're the coach of Ohio State, after what Urban did and the standards said and what Ryan continued, that's it, man. Like, it's national championships. It's beat Michigan, win national championship, and everything else is a failure. Don't think it's quite to that standard in Happy Valley.
So last year in Knoxville, and I was up there for this game, just an amazing game where Tennessee wins 52-51, something like that.
Yeah.
Last second kick. Last time Will Reichert, Alabama's kicker, missed a kick. I think he's hit 26 consecutive, which he'll be jinxed soon on that too. They're going to throw that out there. That. But Tennessee, able last year to have Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt and these great weapons and the high-powered offense, running 85 plays a game, scoring 45-plus points. Now they're doing it with defense. And I read something this morning, and really interesting. I thought A&M was going to beat them this past weekend, but Tennessee wins the game 20-17, and it was 20-13. The first time in Josh Heupel's coaching career at both Central Florida and Tennessee that he's ever won a game where he scored under 30 points.
Wow.
But my point there is now this guy's recruiting the defense. If he can
Sure.
get that entire package together,
Sure.
Watch out. I think Heupel can coach. But this game on Saturday, 2:30, CBS, big game for both teams because loser's going to be out with 2 losses. How do you see this one playing out? Do you think Tennessee has a legitimate shot?
Yeah, I think so. I'd like to see more from Milton. Remember Milton all summer long? Remember the YouTube videos of him at Peyton's camp? And I talked to Peyton about it, and he was like, dude, it's just, it's silly how he can throw a football. I had him at Michigan.
By the way, I didn't think it was a big of a deal. Like, there's a YouTube video of him throwing an orange 100 yards. Back in the day, I think I could have, I'm not being Uncle Reno here. I think I could have thrown an orange. Well, that's not that big of a deal.
First of all, it's Rico. It's not Reno. And
Rico.
secondly, no,
we've had him on the show, by the way.
Yeah. Secondly, you could not have thrown 100 yards. I'm sorry. Maybe you were a great baseball player and you could throw it 90 miles an hour. And if so, then I'll eat my words.
Okay. Here was what I used to do. I swear. So we had a right field porch that was 300, and we had a 10-foot fence in right field. And I would stand at home plate and I could throw a baseball from home plate over the 300. All my kids' souls.
Okay.
So and maybe, I just had one of those baseball arms. It
just
didn't equate to good pitching. Yeah. But I played right field.
Yeah.
And again,
this
is not a humble brag.
Okay.
But
Reno or Rico or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I just think Joe Milton, if you can throw a football 80 yards, I just think throwing an orange 100 yards is not that big of a deal.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It's certainly more impressive to throw the football 80 yards because I think there's more baseball players that could throw an orange 100 yards than there are those guys that throw a football 80. That just is. And Michael Penix is the same way. I wrote a little piece on Michael Penix, and I know we're not talking Huskies right now. We're talking a little SEC in Tennessee, but yeah, those guys are just they're the whole QB position, man. It's just the way these guys can spin the ball today. And again, the Manning Academy and all those guys have been through there through all of these years. Peyton would tell you the same thing if he's on with you today. He's just like, yeah, man, every single year, these guys just continue to grow and push the envelope. And so this is a big one for Milton and for the NFL, right? Because there was a lot of rumblings, and this is going to be a great draft class. We're going to spend time, I'm sure, this spring and hopping on your show and talking about these prospects because it is Baskin Robbins, man. There are a lot of different flavors that are emerging. And if Joe Milton wants to be any part of that, this is one where you've got to stand and deliver a little bit more.
It is Unlocked with Fox's Brock Huard. I'm Lance Taylor from the Next Round. It is on Disrupt the Media. Like and subscribe. It is always brought to you by our friends at mybookie.ag. When you check out at mybookie.ag, put in that promo code Next Round. They're going to hook you up with that checkout bonus at mybookie.ag. Speaking of one of those quarterbacks, everybody projects Caleb's going to go number 1 overall. I have never seen a Lincoln Riley offense or Caleb Williams under center look that bad. 5 turnovers. They gave up a 99-yard kick return. The defense played winning football, in my opinion. Gave up a couple of big plays, but overall, you will take that most nights with USC. Caleb Williams, and somebody brought this up on the show today, against top 25 defenses, how bad he has been. And you might know these numbers exactly, but he's going to see a top 25 defense in the Coliseum where you will be on Saturday night.
He is. And what a lot of those top 25 defenses do is pressure the quarterback. And I want to say he's 175th against pressure this year, like fourth worst in all of college football with all the QBs that have played. So when he is pressured, he is just trying to do way too much. And, you know, the numbers plummet there because that's where all the interceptions and the turnovers have come. The fumble and the picks is you get people in his face and you get pressure, and their line is very average. Lance, I'm going to, you know, of all the elite teams we've seen this season, the Ohio States, Texas, the Michigans, I will go very much on record here and say they are the smallest team. Now, they're no longer elite. They've fallen all the way to 18, and we've seen them each week kind of drop in the rankings because they've just not played team ball, complementary ball, not been impressive. Offensively, the last couple of weeks, Arizona got after them, and certainly Notre Dame totally humbled them. But they're small. Their D-line is 6'2.5", 259. And that includes Bear at 300 pounds. He's only 300-pounder in their group. Their linebackers are 6'1", 220. I mean, they're just small. Their DBs are small. Their O-line, their center's 285. I think their O-line barely averages 300 pounds, if that. So Utah has won this matchup the last 3 times. They have just been a straight heavyweight. It has been Big Daddy, Foreman just throwing big haymakers and owning the line of scrimmage and dominating them. Now, Cam Rising's been a part of it and a huge part of it. I doubt he plays this week. And so it's going to be just, will the heavyweight beat the middleweight? And can that heavyweight get to Caleb the way they did last year in Salt Lake, the way they did in the Pac-12 title game? Can they pressure him? Because if they can pressure him, and that's where the NFL dudes are watching right now, right? You mentioned about top 20 defenses. How about versus pressure? Because you know what you see in the NFL? Pressure. You know what you have in the NFL? People in your face. You know what you have in the NFL? Pockets of collapse. You know what you have in the NFL? Really elite defenses. So he's going to have to, second half of this season, if he's going to get himself back in the Heisman race, if SC is going to get to that championship game and into a playoff, he is going to have to handle that pressure so much better.
You mentioned the Utes have won 3 consecutive against USC, but last year regular season was just an incredible game that came down to a 2-point conversion. First half of Pac-12 championship, USC dominated. Yep. I thought that game was over, and then they forgot how to tackle, which they did for the better half of most of the year last year. But going back, Utah, outside of the 2021 win in the Coliseum, the last time they won there was 1916. And look, these are all new players outside of some of the guys that are banged up right now, yep. Which it seems like Utah's entire team is banged up.
Yeah.
There's a reason I think USC is a 6.5-point favorite. I mean, I'm not going to say it's hard for me to see Caleb. Well, it is hard for me to see Caleb Williams look that bad in back-to-back games. Is there not a way, if you're Lincoln Riley, you can negate that pass rush? You've got so much skill on the perimeter that, quick hits, whatever you got to do to slow that down, because when you get those guys in space, they can make big-time plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a huge answer. It's just to play on time and play on rhythm. Just get the ball out of your hands, get to those jet sweeps, get to the bubble screens, get to some shots. But I'll tell you what Arizona did and what Notre Dame did even more is they came up and pressed those guys, and they came up and got in their face. And Jordan Addison a year ago ran by everybody and is doing a great job in the NFL. We're not seeing it. There was a ton of hype and attention going into the best receiving core USC ever had. I think I even told you, like internally, they really felt that way. But right now, they've been challenged. Right now, they're getting pressed. Right now, people are coming up in their face and attacking them. Utah's corners are a little bigger, a little longer. They're not quite what Notre Dame's guys are. So we'll see whether or not Morgan Scalley will roll the dice. I'll say this, in their 2 matchups last year, almost 20% cover zero, all out blitz. When that little sucker over there, Morgan Scalley, former safety for Utah, he's on the sidelines. He's awesome. Him and Lincoln are just, it's an incredible chess match to watch. But when he has, the game on the line, when he has a big play to make, what's coming. He is going to bring that heat, going to bring that pressure, and it will be, it's going to be fun to watch Saturday.
Yeah, I'm just a little surprised that Dorian Singer hasn't been more of an impact guy.
Correct.
You go out, you get him from Arizona, and I know Jed Fish would love to have that guy still in Tucson. I tell people all the time that don't watch USC, like Brendan Rice has become their big play guy.
Yep.
And he looks like an NFL. I mean, obviously he's not going to be his dad, but he looks like a guy that could be a third option in the NFL.
Yeah, hands are a little limited, right? There's been more drops than you kind of want to see with Brendan. And you're right, Singer just is not coming up and attacking him, and he's just not winning either with physicality or violence or speed or twitch or some of these things that you really thought like, oh man, you can come up and press me. I'm throwing it right over your head. So yeah, that'll be a little bit of the game, I think, Saturday, is how much of that can they play in rhythm and get the guys in space and get them out on the track, which they did to Utah at times last year, especially the first matchup and in the first half of the championship game, versus how much can Utah just play this thing in the cage, man? They have the speedway there at the Coliseum in the offseason. NASCAR comes in there, right? And that's what SC wants it, man. They want it full throttle, just speedway. And, Utah would like it like a WWE ring or, a UFC fight. They want that thing in the cage. So it'd be a fascinating back and forth to see which style will ultimately win out.
It's Unlocked with Fox's Brock Huard. Just a few more moments here. It is brought to you by LancesLock.com. Jump on board. Major League Baseball playoffs. NBA starts up in just a few days. We've got NFL coming up this weekend. Of course, college football, all of it. We will win for you at LancesLock.com. So we ask weird questions on the next round. And one of the questions that was thrown out there today was, if you had all of your taxes paid and your mortgage was paid off, what is one major city you still would not live in? And I lived in LA for a minute, and I thought about LA, but Chicago was my answer, and a couple of reasons. I love Chicago in the summer. I love going. I try to go every summer. I think it's an incredible place. I think really good people, but it's way too cold, way too much wind, and way too much crime now for me. Yeah. And the reason I throw this out is you're heading to LA, obviously, this weekend. Do you like LA, and do you have go-to places in LA?
Ooh, that's a good question. I love where a lot of the USC coaches live, which is Palos Verdes. I have fallen in love with a resort called the Terranea out there that once you get through there and once you get out there, you're like, this isn't LA. Like, this is just beautiful. And I'm a huge fan. I don't know if you've ever been to Cabo. You ever been down to, yeah. That kind of reminds me of like getting to Cabo, and it's like, man, this is living right here.
Yeah,
it's
the
quiet.
Sea of Cortez.
Oh, the water, it's just beautiful. The rest of LA, that's a little fast for me, my friend. I wonder where Detroit fit with some of your peers.
Oh, well, I mean, that was obvious. I didn't think Detroit was in the mix.
Well, that's funny. So I got a question for you then. We had a weird one on our morning show that because we do a segment called Mean Tweets once a week, and then my producer and our board op read these mean tweets that I get every single weekend from fans. And of course, I was really biased towards Iowa. I wanted to marry them and do other things with them, yada, yada, yada. So then it got us thinking, if you could marry a state, which state would be a great spouse?
Oh, wow.
Which state would Lance marry if he could marry
I'm probably going to have to think about this for a little bit because Texas is too big and too loose. I think Florida's too schizophrenic. A little too tacky for me.
Yeah.
California is just not to bring politics in it too, but people are just nuts. I don't want to mate like that. Oh gosh, I got to go something. Maybe Montana.
Okay. Yeah. A little gritty, a little tough.
Yeah. Sure. I like my women to. Hey, back to Manscaped. Yes. I like my women with the old Mach 3. Okay, I'm not. Don't bring back the old hip to hip for me. So and I don't know what you're gonna get in Montana, but no, thank you. What state did you marry?
I said Wisconsin would be a little underrated. Like, she'd take care of you. She'd be a great spouse.
But I bet her breath would smell of beer and cheese. Yeah, and
probably some curds, and it'd be a little chilly. North Carolina's an obvious one. North Carolina's a sweetheart and just a sweet, just a sweet spouse, and got a lot to offer, a lot of beauty, a lot of things going on in Carolina. Don't sleep on Tennessee though, or Kentucky,
or Alabama. I know you haven't spent a lot of time here.
No, I've been to Bama. A handful of times.
We got good women here. Yeah. So I got two weird ones for you. In and out or not?
Oh, big.
Yeah,
big
me too.
Yeah, really.
Man, my co-host is. I mean, they've come back a little bit, but they were like, "That's the most overrated fast food in the world." And I'm like, there's a reason there is a huge line every time you go. It's so
French fries aren't good. French fries aren't great. I'll give your co-host that. French fries are cardboard, but the burger, pretty fresh, pretty darn good. Okay. Yeah, what other one? You got one more?
The other one, last question. So back to your original city, Seattle. Yeah. Best movie or television show to ever come out of there. And the reason I ask you is I do a little show with Tom Luganbill from ESPN every week. Mm-hmm. And I brought up this show this week. So I want to see what you say, movie or or television show to come out of Seattle?
Well, Sleepless in Seattle is the obvious. Frasier was pretty darn good, and Grey's Anatomy is probably the winner. Did I hit on any of those?
No, I went The Killing from 2011 on AMC.
Oh,
Did you ever see it?
No. Wow.
Oh, you need to watch it. I mean, do you like dramas, thrillers?
Yeah. They can hold my attention. Yeah.
Yeah. So this girl goes missing. So they're trying to investigate her death. This guy and this girl. And it goes over 2 seasons, but it shows all of the beautiful landscape of Seattle. It goes into some of the Indian reservation casinos. The weather is part of it, how dreary it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really dark, gritty drama, and it is fantastic. But I highly recommend The Killing. I think it's the best thing I've ever seen. First of all, I don't like rom-coms, so I saw Sleepless in Seattle. I never saw the follow-up, You've Got Mail. I've never seen an episode of Grey's Anatomy.
Okay.
And what was the other one?
Frasier, not a big Frasier guy.
Oh, no, I like Frasier. You know, they rebooted it. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Paramount Plus, they've got the new Frasier. So Kelsey Grammer is back. Okay. And I think he's living with his neurotic son. That's going to shock you.
Oh, interesting.
All right. I saw a preview the other day for it. So Frasier's back. Shout out to Seattle.
And was there Harry and the Hendersons, I think, too, maybe up there? I don't know.
Yeah, John Lithgow played a Sasquatch.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow, this thing took quite a turn today.
It always does.
You never know what's coming.
Right.
Unlike the NFL.
Brought to you by mybookie.ag. Put in that promo code next round. They're going to hook you up with the sign-up bonus. Safe travels. I know you can't give us your prediction, but fight on. USC doesn't need to lose this one. I want them to at least roll into November with a slim hope of getting to their first ever college football playoff.
Yeah, got to tackle. Got to tackle defensively. You mentioned that earlier. Somehow, I think they have slowed down some of their scheme. I think at times they were just trying to do way too much defensively. So slow down defensively and tackle, and then offensively, they've got to get back to being who they are. And that is just, as I said, full throttle, step on the gas and get those boys running, because that guy Branch, that freshman, it's the first one that looks like Bush. I mean, he looks like Reggie.
Yeah.
He just has a different gear when he's in the open field. And I have a sense they want to try to utilize him a lot Saturday night.
Okay. Safe travels. Enjoy In and Out. We'll talk to you next week.
All
That's
right.
Rock
See you, buddy.
from Fox Unlocked right here on Disrupt the Media.